Right, so here we are with another Tyndrum trip. This is just after Easter 2018. It's just after Bank Holiday Monday. This is the Tuesday. I've came up. I've just got to a spot where I'm thinking I'm probably going to spend a couple of days around. There's a nice big gravel bank just up there to the side, and you can see where this is going to be in flood. It's all going to be getting funneled through straight here with bedrock on either side, and then as you can see it opens up here, especially on the other side of that little bedrock slab there as well. So I'm probably going to start on all of those little gravels, get my little prospecting sluice set up and see what the day is going to have. I've travelled up here today as well, so I've already spent 5 hours driving. It's round about, I don't know, 3:30, something like that, so I'll probably be able to get another about 3 hours in today, something like that. Then I have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and I'll be heading home Saturday, so I'll still be able to get a couple of hours in on Saturday, I would have thought as well. It all depends on how the gold's showing up and what it's like. But at the end of the day, the only way to find out is to get the equipment out and have a dig. So here we go. Right, so I've just filled the first bucket from the gravel bank. So I'm just about to run it through the sluice. I've brought my own little DIY prospecting sluice with me again. I just like the sluice just because it's so really easy, quick and easy to get set up. You can get it set up pretty much anywhere in the stream. So I'm just about to get set up in my chair, scoop and start feeding it through, and we'll see what it has to hold. If anything, we'll see. Well, the first bucket was a wipeout. Might have been the smallest of specks in there, but nothing to even bother getting the snuffer bottle out for. But it's alright, it's only still surface material, so if I don't get anything out with the next couple of buckets, then I'll probably move on and try a different spot. But because there's so much overburden on the gravel bank that I'm working at the moment, it's not worth writing it off straight away, especially with the size of the buckets that I use, because they're quite small buckets. So I'll run a few more of these and hopefully there'll be something to show for it. Well, there's the first couple of specks that are worthy of getting the snuffer out, but only just really. But at least a little bit of gold in the bucket. So get another one rattled out, maybe 2, and then head back. But hopefully there's going to be a little bit more than that to show for the next one. But at least it's a show, so we'll see how we get on. So bucket number 3 done. Well, ready to sluice anyway. Just got the sluice slipped back up, so let's see what this one's got to give. Well, there's the results of bucket number 3. 2 slightly bigger bits and a few small specky bits as well. So I'll snuffer all those up and crack on, get another bucket through. It's getting really cold now though, so I'll probably only do 1 more bucket, but still, it's an improvement on the last one, so hopefully the next one will show another improvement. Well, there's bucket number 4 ran through, and all ran through the sluice. I just need to empty that out into the pan, give that a pan out, see what that's going to give. Not really holding out much hope, just from the previous 3 buckets, but obviously I'm getting deeper, so fortune's my turn. But this is probably going to be the last bucket now, so I'm hoping there might be a little flourish for the final one for the day, but we'll see. Well, day 2 of the gold prospecting trip during Easter 2018, and as you can see we've had a little bit of snow overnight. This is where I was set up yesterday. This was my sluice run, and the amount of snow that's settled, as you can see, is quite ridiculous. That's the area that I was working yesterday, completely covered in snow. I don't think I'm going to bother working it again today. I don't really know how long I'm actually going to be out. As you can see from the conditions, it's mid pretty much blizzard. It's supposed to be going down to -8 later on today as well, so I can see today being quite a short day. So instead I'm going to have a scout around, see if I can find somewhere that's going to be a little bit easier to get into. Might be a bit more perspective, but as I say, looking at this, I'm not going to be clearing all the snow off this just to start working the same hole that was only given a couple of tiny specks yesterday. So I'm going to have a scout around and see if there's anywhere that's looking a little bit better, and we'll see if we get set up for the day. Right, so I've just sluiced the first bucket of the day. I'm just about to give it a pan out. I've moved spots. I've decided to do that slab that's just protruding out there. I'm just getting right underneath it with the pump at the moment. This is still just the first bucket, so I'm not expecting too much, but hopefully there might be a little bit. So I'm just about to give it a pan out and see what it's got. As you can see though, the conditions are slightly white, very, very chilly. It's snowing all day long so far, but it is what it is, so we'll see what we get. Well, there's the results of the first bucket. A couple of nice looking pieces in there actually. I wasn't expecting quite so big a piece on the first bucket. This camera's probably rubbish at picking them up, but I say there's one really nice piece and there's a few other smaller bits comparable of the size that I got yesterday. So just in that very first bucket I've probably found equivalent of what I found yesterday. So that's a really good sign. First bucket of the day, so hopefully the more buckets I do, the bigger the bits are going to get. So we'll see. Time to rattle bucket number 2 out. Well, there's bucket number 2 ran through. A few more bits in there. Nothing as big as the first piece out of the first bucket, but that's okay. I say it's still early on. I've just managed to open the hole up where I'll be able to get the 4-inch pump in, so filling a bucket now only takes 5-10 minutes if that. It actually takes longer to sluice it than it does to fill it. So I should be able to rattle through a good few buckets today, as long as the weather, well, it's already bloody freezing, but as long as I can stand the weather, put it that way, we'll see how many buckets we can get through. So there's number 2 done. And let's get on with number 3. Well, I've just sluiced and panned bucket number 3. Probably 3-4 okay sized bits, and then some more specky bits caught up in the black sands as well. So again, I'll get those snuffed out. Not groundbreaking stuff by any means or anything, but it's still gold in every bucket, so it's a decent sign. And the hole's already going to be getting deeper the more I work it, so let's see what else it's got to give. And there's the results of the next bucket. A few nice pieces in that one. Biggest pieces of the day so far, bigger than the first piece out of the first bucket. Really happy with those. There's about 5 nice big bits in there, plus quite a few little dotty bits as well. So it's a good sign. It means I'm getting down into some slightly better pace, so we'll see. Plenty of time left, so we'll get on, get another bucket rattled out and see what that one's got to give. But that one's a nice result, a nice bucket that one, so hopefully the next one's going to be even better. And that's another bucket sluiced, panned, and there's the results. Just smaller pieces again this time. But this one was actually more of an experiment bucket because the hole's big enough now where this bucket was solely from the left hand side of the hole, so the next bucket's going to be from the right hand side, and if the picker size picks back up again on the right hand side of the hole, then I know which one to spend more of the time on. I say that's not a great showing. It's there's one okay sized piece in there, the rest is just small little dotty stuff. But as I say, now I'm going to switch over to the right hand side of the hole and hope it improves again, and if it does, then I'll know which side to work. I've just finished sluicing the bucket from the right hand side of the hole, and straight away I can see a picker in the top of the mat. Don't know whether to make it out or not. Yeah, I don't know how well it'll make it out there, but it's a good size one, that one, so I'll empty that out into the pan, see what else is going to come out, and see what this one's going to give. But it's a good sign, that one. It's better than what came out of the left hand side, so shows which side I'm probably going to be working. Yeah, there's the results of that sluiced bucket's worth. A couple of nice sized pickers there. So it goes to show it's worth testing the side of the hole that you're working. Obviously the left hand side didn't give nowhere near as much as that one, so as I said, I'll continue with the right hand side, see if it continues with bigger pieces like that. And if it does, then it'll be time well spent. But that's not a bad result, that. Again, that's just a small bucket as well. I only run half the size bucket that most people normally run, just because I managed to get hold of a metal bucket. So yeah, I'm quite pleased with those. So the sluice is already set up for the next one. I just need to get the bucket filled. Well, there's another bucket down, and again, not a bad result. A couple of nicer bits, a few smaller bits as well, all tucked up along. So that's not a bad result for another bucket. Another half-size bucket anyway. So it's worth working the right hand side from the looks of it. Hole's actually getting nice and deep now as well. I'm using the 4-inch pump, so it doesn't take too long to fill the buckets. But it's certainly still cold enough, so I don't know how long I'm going to stay out for. Maybe another bucket or two. But there's still going to be a few more days of the trip to go, so at least it looks as though I found a decent spot to work for the next few days. So that's a good sign anyway. So get these snuffed up and crack on. Well, that's another bucket and more results. This was another test though. This one was working just the very front of the hole, The next one I'm going to be working right as far back underneath the slab as I can, and again it's just to try and find out if there's any slightly hotter spots in the hole or not. But again, it's nice to see some sizable chunks in every bucket, so it's not a bad result for day 2, and it was a good job that I moved on really, so not too bad. Probably time for one more bucket, then that'll do it. Right, well that's the last sluice work done for the day. Got enough pretty much, so that's going to be it. But it has delivered possibly the largest piece of the day. That's got a bit of thickness to it, that one, compared to the other ones that had been hammered flat, as well as plenty of other smaller little bits as well. So it looks as though the hole's still not a bad hole, so I'll give it another hit tomorrow. Hopefully it'll continue to pay out as it is, and if not, a little bit better. The hole's getting quite deep now, so it's getting a little bit awkward to get the material, but I'll just have to rake out the larger stones and see how we go. But it's not a bad total for the day, so that's about it. We'll see what tomorrow brings. Right, so it's day 3 of the Tyndrum prospecting trip. I've just got back to the hole. It's a nicer day today, bits of blue sky, little bits of sun, so the snow's starting to melt a little bit, so the water level is a little bit higher, but obviously there's still plenty of snow about, so it hasn't fully melted all yet. But we'll see how that goes during the trip. This is the slab that I've been working. I don't know how well you'll be able to see, but I managed to get right underneath the slab with the 4-inch pump. Further than you'll be able to get with the 2.5-inch really. Right underneath. This is a huge slab that's just sat on bedrock to the left there. That's all just surface bedrock that's channeling down. And as I say, this slab's going around and back down. All of these tailings are from underneath it. As I say, I've started right in front of it, and then I've been going underneath it as well. I say this is what I'm going to be spending the rest of the trip with. Well, as long as it continues to pay out like it was yesterday, ideally a little bit better, but there were still some nice bits coming out yesterday, which was an encouraging sign. So I've just got everything set up, just about to get the pump, start filling the first bucket and get it sluiced through. Right, so there's the result of the first bucket. A couple of nice sized pieces, a couple of smaller specky pieces as well. nice variety of sizes in there, so it's good to be back on decent sized bits and pieces straight away on the first bucket of the day. It's a good sign, so it shows the hole's worth continuing with, so I'm going to crack on, get these snuffered up and get ready and get another bucket rattled out. Right, so that's bucket number 2, ran, sluiced, panned, and some more really nice pieces. Looks as though the slab's a good working place, so definitely going to continue with this for the rest of the trip. I say if it continues like this, I'm going to be quite happy at the end of the trip. Still nothing's mega chunky, mega big or anything, but they're still good sized pieces compared to just the usual specky, dotty, tiny little pieces, so more to add to the snuffer bottle and crack on with bucket number 3. Right, so that's another bucket down, ran, sluiced, panned, and probably 2 of the biggest pieces so far, as well as good selection of other size bits as well. So yeah, quite happy with those. As I say, they're just going to get snuffered up, crack on, get another bucket out. Probably stop and have some lunch shortly as well. But that's not a bad result. It shows that the slab's not a bad slab, so quite happy with that. Especially considering the first day where it was just a couple of specks here and there, so shows it was a good decision to move on as well. So get those snuffered out and crack on and get another bucket ran. Now you probably can't make it out very well, but underneath the slab there's a huge boulder just underneath there. I've been working to try and get that out for quite a while now, been working all the way around it. I can get my rake head just behind it, but it hasn't been shifting. So that last bucket, hopefully that's exposed a bit more of it. I can see a few bigger stones next to it, so hopefully I'll be able to get those out, then get that big slab out, and hopefully under that slab might be some really nice paste. So that's what I'm going to try and get out now and fill a bucket if I can. I've just stopped for a lunch break, sluiced through a bucket that I prepared just before lunch, just about to pan it out, but I did actually see a nice picker in the very top part of the mat, so I'm expecting to see that in the pan. Don't know what else is going to be there, but I know there was at least one nice bit, so get this panned out and see what's in it. Right, well there's the results of that bucket. There's the one really nice bigger bit. I don't know how well the camera's going to make it out, but it actually looks quite like a boot, so I'll call that one Italy. The rest are just smaller, slightly smaller pieces, but still I'm quite pleased with that bigger piece. So into the snuffer bottle it goes, and crack on and probably get another 2 or 3 buckets done for the day. Well, there's another bucket filled, ready to sluice out. The tailings pile on top of the boulder's getting quite substantial now, but the good thing about piling it on top of the boulder is when I'm actually finished with the hole, I'll just be able to rake it all straight back in and fill the hole straight away. That's why I've also piled up all of the bigger stones along the side there. So again, when I'm done, I'll just be able to throw all of those back in, rake all of this on top, and then it'll be as though I wasn't even here when I leave. So I'm going to get this one sluiced through, get it ran through, get it panned, and see what's in this one. Just a few smaller pieces and one slightly larger piece that time, but I was working more the left hand side of the hole. I was starting to get out of material towards that side, so now I'm going to move back over to the right. And yesterday when I was running tests, the left hand side was a little less productive than the right hand side, but it's just because I'm getting that deep now, I'm almost scraping what looks like could be the bottom, so I just want to make sure it was completely clear on the left. And that looks as though that's going to be the last piece from the left hand side before I start moving over to the right again. So get this snuffered up, have another quick break, and crack on with another bucket. Another bucket down, sluiced, panned, and 2 really nice pieces on that one compared to everything else around it as well. You can see there's actually some shape and texture to those 2, and a little bit of shadow forming off the bigger one as well. It's nice to see. That's off the right hand side of the hole again, so there's going to be plenty of material on there to keep me going as well, so that's a good sign to keep me going. Don't know how long I'm actually going to be staying for, because I've just had a tooth filling fall out, so we'll see how that goes. It's not causing me any jip at the moment, but if it does I might have to call the trip short, but quite happy and pleased with pieces like that, so I'll keep going as long as those keep coming out, and tooth's okay, so we'll see how we get on. Right, well that's the last bucket of the day, sluice, panned, and again a few nice sized pieces in there, a few smaller dottier bits as well. So the slightly sizable chunks are slowly adding up in the snuffer bottle. So we're getting there slowly but surely. So yep, that's about it for the day. Probably one more day. I probably won't do Saturday, I'll probably just do it tomorrow and then head back home. But it's getting there. As I said, the hole's quite deep now and I'm working all the way down the right hand side, and this is where the last two buckets have come from, so it's going to be easy enough to just rake everything straight back into there as well and level it all off, so not a bad day's work really. Right, so day 4 of the just past Easter prospecting trip to Tyndrum. I've just got back to the hole. The water levels dropped a little bit from where it was yesterday when I left it, so all of the snow, or most of the snow, has actually melted off the hillsides now. It must have ran through overnight and the water levels settled back down again. Now as you can see, this is the huge slab that I'm working behind. It's like a triangular shape and sort of like resting on a couple of huge boulders underneath as well. Obviously if I move those, the whole slab will fall in, but I don't think there's any moving them anyway because there's that much weight pressing down on them just because of the size of the slab in the first place. Now hole wise underneath it, again I don't know how well it can make it out, but I'm going at least 3, possibly even 4 foot behind the slab, especially with a 4-inch pump. That's a nice long pump, so I get right in, right at the very back, and that's where I'm sucking all the material out of. The couple of pickers that I got towards the end of yesterday, they were coming from this right hand side of the hole, and there's still all of this loose gravel material on the side as well, so there's plenty of material to keep me going for today. Whether to do today and tomorrow or not, I'm not sure. We'll just have to see how the day goes really. So as I say, I've just got here, I'm just about to get set up, start getting the first bucket filled, and we'll see what today's got to give. Right, so there's the first bucket ran, again all from the right hand side, and I'm going to be working along the side of the slab and up towards the bank, because obviously when I start taking material from the bottom, it's all going to start collapsing down anyway, so I might as well start taking the material from the sides and then raking out the larger stones and then seeing what material I can get. Just ran the first bucket through the sluice, just emptied it into the pan. I did see a little picker in the top mat, obviously it's not panned yet, I'm just about to pan it out now, so we'll give it a pan through and see what's in it. Right, well there's the result of the first bucket. That larger piece there is the piece that I saw in the mat, but as you can see there's plenty of other smaller, well slightly smaller bits, nice mixture of different sizes in there. Must be probably about 10, 12 colours in there, so that's not a bad first pan of the day, especially for the first bucket. So as I say, there's plenty more time to crack on, and if they continue like that, should be a decent trip. So time to get bucket number 2 out and get that rattle through. Well, that's bucket number 2, ran, sluiced, panned. No big pickers this time, but a selection of smaller pieces. There's about 6 or 7 larger small pieces, as I say, and then there's probably about a dozen dots all in the black sand as well, so nothing of picker size that time, so I'll just get those snuffed out and crack on and get another bucket ran, and hopefully there'll be an increase in size on the next one. Right, well I've just ran bucket number 3, pretty much all out of one specific area in the hole. There's like a boulder sticking up, so I've just been working either side just so I can try and leverage it out with the rake. Just sluiced it through and all the way through the sluice box. Like for the bucket, that piece there was just shining out at me. I don't know how well the camera will make it out, but I'll pick it out in a second. But it's a nice, probably the biggest piece of the trip so far actually. I'll flush it out and I'll pick the camera up. Yeah, so there's that piece there. As I say, it's quite a nice piece that. A little bit of thickness to it as well, rather than just the usual flat specky bits. So I'll put that in the pan, give the rest of it a pan out as well, and see what else is in it. Right, well as a result of that bucket, as I say, the one nice bigger piece, a few smaller but still okay sized pieces, and then back onto the usual dots in the black sands as well. But yeah, I'm quite happy and pleased with that bigger piece there. That's definitely the biggest piece of the trip so far. I'll get some better photos of it later on. As I say, this is just a little action camera that I use, so it's not the best of picking up the finest of details. But it is what it is, and as I say, that's quite a nice piece that. So again, in the snuffer bottle, and get bucket number 4 on the go. Well, another bucket ran, sluiced, panned, but just a couple of measly little specks that time. I say they probably won't even show up, so yeah, not much to show for a full bucket's worth that time. If it's going to continue like that, then I'll just fill the hole back in. Obviously it's been a good hole so far, so that might have just been a little dry spot, so I'll move away from the specific area where I was working and try a different spot in the hole. And I say if it's no good, I'll just fill it all back in and call it a day in the trip. But we'll see, there's still plenty of time for another, at least, probably 3 more buckets I would have thought, maybe 4. So we'll get them rattled through and we'll see what's going to come out of them. Well, that's another bucket down, and 2 more okay sized pieces. Not a lot though really, just those 2 and a couple of micro dots scattered about here and there. But it's better than the last pan, but it's still not really great, so I'd say there's still going to be time for a few more buckets, but I think today is probably going to be the last day, so we'll see how the day ends up, and that'll make my decision for sure. But at the end of the day, it's still a little bit more to go into the snuffer bottle, so in it goes, and on to the next one. Right, so that's another bucket sluiced, panned, and it's not a bad bucket that time. Plenty of colours to choose from. There's a variety of different sizes as well, some bigger, some smaller, all the way down to the micro dotty stuff as well. So that's an improvement on the last couple of buckets anyway, so it gives a little bit of hope just to see out the rest of the day with. As I say, there's probably going to be time for maybe 2 more buckets, and then I'll probably head off home. I don't think I'll probably head up, stay around tomorrow as well. As I say, it's getting a bit chilly again, so we'll see how the day ends first of all, but I think today's probably going to be the last day, but hopefully we'll get a few more buckets like that, if not a little bit better. We'll see. Well, another bucket ran, sluiced, panned. Another selection of pieces, but nothing of particularly big size, just small to medium, small bits really, but there's probably about 10 in there altogether. But it's still not really that great, but it's still gold in every pan, gold in every bucket, so it's still something, I suppose. But as the day's getting on now, I'm going to run 1 more bucket and then fill the hole back in. I've got all of these big stones to the side, all of the tailings on top of the slab. They're just all going to get shot back in. That huge one to the side there, there's going to be some big stones going back into here. So when I'm finished, it should be pretty much as I arrive. So 1 more bucket to go after I get these snuffered up, and then that'll be it. Right, so that's the last bucket of the day, and I think that's going to be the last one of the trip as well. The weather's turned, and tomorrow, if I did stay, would have only been a half day, because I've got a 5-hour drive ahead of me regardless of which day I go. So I might as well head home now, and I'll still have a little bit of weekend left. But at least I've been rewarded with a decent sized piece towards the end, and a nice selection of other pits as well. And that's just all out of the last bucket, so that's not too bad at all. So I'll show the final total for the trip in a second. First off, I've just got to get all this snuffered up and get that hole raked in. The water level itself has raised because of all the water. The water itself is going to be melting any remaining snow that was on the hillside as well, so you can actually see the water level against the slab is already raised about 2 inches, so it's going to be filling up pretty quickly on its own just by the water pushing all the stones in that I've laid on top of the slab. But I'm still going to pile it all in, get it levelled off, and then that'll be me for the trip.